going into Procreate, I'll just open up a quick A4 file, and you can see here that basically these are the kind of pens that I use. I'll use the Studio pen and Technical pen. Technical pen is just a straightforward thin line. Studio pen is basically the same, but it has a little bit of, if you add pressure, you can get a thin to thick line solid thing going on. And the other one that I really just use more often than not is this flat brush. And it works the same way as a magic marker, in that if you draw one line, it's light, and then if you draw back over it, you get that darker tone. So that's quite a useful thing. So does anybody have any kind of like requests for what kind of stuff they want to see? I mean, costume, props, objects, that sort of thing, or creature design sort of thing?
Props and objects or costumes are good for the kind of thing that we're doing across different
All right,
courses.
okay. Yeah. So yeah. I suppose, I mean, one of the ways you can start with something is you can kind of like figure out a basic, you know, shape of a person. It doesn't have to be too exact. And then for me, what I'd probably do is I would just duplicate that a few times. Let me just turn that down a little bit so it's in the background. And then I'm going to use the slightly heavier brush. And then looking at sort of like just not really caring much about, you know, the kind of the shape of what's going on here. Just kind of scribbling over the top of this. And then looking for what I can see in these designs and everything. And you know, you're free to eliminate the things that you don't want. I was a little heavy-handed in there. But again, now what I can do is I can throw a little bit of softening white over the top of it all. And then go in with a hard technical pen. And look for the sort of things that this one. So just using this as a sort of like a start point for a range of different ideas. And you don't have to follow it firmly, you know, it's just that ability to start looking for shapes that you might not have necessarily come up with if somebody had said, you know, oh, this person's going to need some sort of like evening frock for this event in some sort of space opera type thing. All of them seem to have this wide shoulder on this one. It's just the way my hand obviously moved. And if you when you're first starting out on this, doing the ones for trying to define an actual object or thing, when you've got something specific that you're trying to design in mind, it's a little harder, to be fair. When you first start out, it might be worth looking at just having a bit of fun and doing a bunch of scribbles and seeing what you can see and seeing how many different things that you can get out of that. So that's one of those kind of techniques. And then the other one, you could obviously take that to the final thing, and each one of these you could then take and then iterate again over the top of that. But you can also go in and just put a silhouette. So doing something like, and then if you take that, keep thinking it's the rectangle tool. Copy. Just gonna paste. There's a technique called the lost line method, and essentially what that looks at is you can do something as easy as and what I'm actually doing is removing from the silhouette. So there's literally no lines joining up some of these things, but what you're going to see is you're going to see the surface detail of something rather than necessarily the form. In some cases, it might add to the form if it looks like a highlight, for example, but this is great for sort of like designing multiple different versions of a costume based around a single silhouette. It might be that you achieve a silhouette that you really like the look of very, very early on, but you haven't fully kind of comprehended the surface details. So it's a really kind of useful kind of technique to employ. And each one will start to look slightly different. For whatever it is you're trying to achieve there. Does that kind of make sense?